highlights. Thank you very much. Over to you, Prashant.
Prashant sir, may I request you to unmute your line from your side and go ahead?
Yeah. Thank you, Satish. Good morning, everyone. This is the first time that I'm interacting with you all, and it's a great pleasure to be representing the company on this forum. Now, let me give you some key highlights on this financial year. As you know that we have completed our backward integration project during the year and our capacity expansion project in D3 at our Dahej SEZ plant, which has been completed. On the 1st December 2020, the company's wholly owned subsidiary, Fermenta Biotech USA LLC, acquired a 52% stake in the US-based vitamin company, AGD Nutrition LLC, headquartered in Nacogdoches, Texas. The deal is expected to combine the expertise of both companies and result in synergies that will bring in greater operational capabilities to enhance company's footprint in US market, which is one of the largest markets for human and animal nutrition. The name of AGD Nutrition LLC has subsequently been changed to Fermenta USA LLC, reflecting the brand value of Fermenta and expected to capitalize on Fermenta's growing recognition as a nutritional ingredient supplier in the US market. With respect to the vitamin D3 business in quarter 4 financial year 21, the volumes of human vitamin D3 40 MIU were higher by 101% over the quarter 4 financial year 20. However, the volumes of animal D3 feed were lower by 14% over the same quarter last year. For the entire financial year 21, there was a positive impact on the human side of the demand, and consequently the volumes and the average prices of human vitamin D3 40 MIU were higher by 71% and 4% respectively over previous year. However, the volumes and the average prices of animal vitamin D3 feed were under pressure and were lower by 35 and 17% respectively over the previous. The company saw a successful launch of its new product, cholesterol from fish oil, for the first time in the world for aquaculture market, which saw sales of approximately 23 crores in the financial year 2021, constituting around 6% of our total operational revenue. I'm happy to mention that the board has proposed a final dividend of 50%, that is rupees 2.5 per share, for the financial year ended 2021. And now I request Mr. Sumesh Gandhi, our CFO, to give the financial highlights. Over to you, Sumesh.
Thank you, Prashant. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining on this call today. Few brief highlights for the quarter ended and the financial year ended 31st March 2021 from my side over here. On a standalone basis in Q4 FY21, the revenue from operations for the quarter was rupees 91 crores, which was an increase of approximately 26% on a year-on-year basis. Operating EBITDA reported was rupees 18 crores, which was an increase of about 33% on a year-on-year basis. Operating EBITDA margin stood at approximately 20% as against 19% a year ago. Net profit after tax reported was rupees 9.7 crores, which was an increase of 35% on a year-on-year basis, while PAT margins stood at 10.7% as against 10% a year ago. Now talking about the annual performance for FY21 on a standalone basis, since it's a year end also, the operating income for the year was 373 crores, which was an increase of approximately 24% over the previous year. Operating EBITDA reported was rupees 94 crore, which was an increase of about 35% over the previous year. Operating EBITDA margin stood at 25.1% as against 23.1% a year ago. Net profit after tax reported was rupees 52 crores, which was a decrease of about 18% on a year-on-year basis, while the PAT margins stood at 14% as against 21% a year ago. Let me just remind you, which I had also said in my earlier earnings call, that in FY20, there was a one-time deferred tax asset benefit to the tune of approximately 19.5 crores due to the amalgamation of the companies, which is why the PAT for the year ended FY20 was higher and cannot be comparable to FY21. One more update from my side before I put it open for the questions and answers is that the company had given an ICD aggregating to rupees 221.3 crores in various tranches to a non-related party for the development of new product, that is cholesterol from fish oil. As on the board meeting date, as of today, the full ICD amount along with interest has been recovered. Thank you very, very much, everybody. And with this, I can now open the floor to questions and answer session.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and one on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and two. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. Participants, you may press star and one to ask a question. The first question is from the line of Mr. Neeraj Shah from Exemplar Investments. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for giving me the opportunity and congratulations for posting decent set of numbers. Can you tell me the contribution of human and animal D3 separately for the year and for the Q4? Hello.
I will
Sumesh, can you take this question?
Yeah,
please?
I'll take this question, which is there. Thank you, Neeraj, for the question. Neeraj, for FY21, the whole year, the difference between the human and the animal is 66% and 34%.
Okay. Can you quantify numbers, Sumesh?
Yeah. So from a numbers perspective, it will be 190 crores and 100 crores.
Okay, 190 and 100 crores for FY21.
Yeah, approximately. Yeah.
And for Q4?
I would not have for the Q4 specifically because we normally capture all this on a yearly basis rather than on a quarter-to-quarter basis.
Okay, it's okay. And in P&L at consolidated level, we have stock in trade worth around 19 crores, which we are seeing for the first time in the history of the company. So, what kind of products it comprises of, and is it going to be a recurring feature going ahead, or is it a one-off?
Can you just repeat the question? I'm really sorry I missed it.
At consolidated level, in P&L, we see stock in trade worth 19 crores.
Right.
Which is not present in standalone numbers. So what is it about, and is it going to be a recurring figure?
Stock in trade of 19 crores, I'm not very sure. Yeah. This is basically because there was a stock on trade which was moving between the Fomenta here and the subsidiary. So this is a stock which is moving from Fomenta India to its wholly owned subsidiaries or its subsidiaries which is there, and that is being coming as a stock in trade.
So it is meant for sales and it has came in inventory for Q4.
Yes.
It's not going to be recurring, right?
No, it's not going to be recovering until and unless at the end of the quarter we have any stock which is moving between the company and its subsidiary, then only it will feature over here. Otherwise, we won't see that.
Okay. And how much has recently acquired that AGD Nutrition contributed to Q4 and fiscal FY21 revenues?
In Q4, in Q4 we really did not have any contribution coming in from AGD Nutrition. One of the reason is that it was sitting on few inventories which was pretty old, and we wanted to liquidate those inventories which is there, and that's the reason we had actually sold off that inventories to clean up everything at a prices which was much lower. So it really did not contribute anything.
So there is no contribution from AGD Nutrition for
On
Q4.
the EBITDA basis, if you say from a sales perspective, yes, it has contributed to approximately 10 crores.
10 crores. And for FY20, how much we have taken? I think we acquired in Q3 end, right?
No, we acquired in the December of 2020. So basically, there wasn't any much difference on that 1 month basis. But from 4 months and everything, it would be close to say around what. No, I'm really sorry. I missed out on one thing. It was 72 crores, which is what we have got it over a period of 4 months.
Pardon?
72 crores on the sales.
From AGD?
Yes.
We have included in the consolidated level.
Yes.
72 crores. I think
Sir,
Sumesh, there must be.
No,
there must
I'm
be
sorry. I'm really sorry on this.
It will be close to 10 to 12 crores, Mr. Neeraj. The contribution from AGD for this
Yes.
quarter. The liquidation of stocks is a one-time thing. So the company has always been profitable. AGD Nutrition, now called Fermenta USA. Let's refer it to as Fermenta USA henceforth. It is a one-time thing. We didn't want the products to be lying there past their shelf life, so we asked them to liquidate those stocks.
So
That's
for
a one-time thing.
So for Q4, I see our EBITDA margin getting very much affected. So is it because of this one-time sale?
Yes, you are right. It's a one-time sale. We asked them to liquidate it. And as you are all aware, the animal feed business is continuing to be under pressure. So we didn't want to continue to hold those stocks, and we asked them to liquidate those stocks.
But it is finished off, or will it be recurring?
It is over, sir. It is over. We will see profitability coming in from Q1 onwards. We are confident of that.
Okay, got it. And on balance sheet front, I had 2 small queries. First is we have a CWIP of 53 crores. So, but I believe our vitamin K, cholesterol, and human BD3 expansion projects are already done and commercialized. So, what is it for, and what kind of capex we can expect in FY22 and FY23, and in which specific areas we are planning our future capex?
Capital work in progress. I think the new plan for expansion, although the cholesterol plant has been completely capitalized almost, the expansion plant had not been capitalized in Q4, sir. So that would still be there, and then regular capex also will be a part of it. The expansion itself is about 35-40 crores out of it. So that had not been capitalized. So that you will see. It should get capitalized maybe if not this quarter, by the beginning of next quarter, it should get capitalized. There are minor things pending, although we started production. K1 is a part of that. Going forward, as far as this year and next year are concerned, we are looking for, in the next 2-3 years, let me say, about 150 crores to 200 crores of capex plans, out of which at least to start with 50 to 60 crores will happen in this year. Some of it will happen in our existing facilities, wherever we have an opportunity to utilize the existing infrastructure, and most of it that will be happening in our new industrial plant area we are taking in Saika. We have plans to put up a greenfield project there, so most of it will be going there, but some portion will be going in the existing plants. Over the next 2-3 years, we are anticipating between 150 to 200 crores. It all depends on how much of D3 capacity expansion. As we already mentioned earlier, we are looking at setting up a premix plant. We are looking at setting up mineral plants. We are looking at expanding our D3 capacities. If all goes well, then we also look forward to having our fermentation capacities enhancement coming in the new plant. So this all will be over the next 2-3 years, Mr. Shah.
First, an additional capacity of human BD3 which we are talking about, has it been commercialized or will it come in Q1?
Some of it is coming in Q1, sir. But by Q2, I think we should be able to commission most of it. You will understand that during these COVID times, running against time to service the increased demand versus taking liberty to debottlenecking and all that is taking some time. So most probably by Q2 we should be able to do all of it.
So in FY21, no additional capacities have contributed to the revenues, right, of human BD3?
Some debottlenecking has happened in the existing plants, but not the new building and plant that should come in with the additional capacities. That is taking some time. But we did increase almost by 15% by debottlenecking in the existing facilities itself, both at Kullu and Dahej put together. So yes, we do expect another 20% or to come in once, at least in the Dahej plant, an increase of that much more.
Thank you, and sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Neeraj. I'll request you to come back in the question queue for a follow-up question. I request all the participants, please restrict to 2 questions per participant. If time permits, please come back in the question queue for a follow-up question. The next question is from the line of Mr. Sudhir from Punj Financial. Please go ahead.
Yeah, very good morning, sir. So a couple of questions, especially from backward integration side. If I look at the EBITDA margin also from 2019, which was around 37%, is falling to 22%. So as you mentioned, is it just because of the one-time liquidation of the stock that we did?
So that is on a consolidated basis, Mr. Sudhir.
Yes, that's on consolidated basis.
On a standalone basis, if you look at anyway, if you are looking at 2019, the consolidation would not matter because this acquisition has been done just last December. So if you look at 2019 and look at the margins and everything, we saw the highest level of sale volume, as well as most importantly historical in the entire history, the highest prices of vitamin D3 feed grade. I don't think so that is an apt comparison, especially now if you look at 2019 to 2021, there has been a degrowth of almost 60% or more on the animal feed volumes. This has mainly happened because of even last year also there was almost a 45% decline. So both years put together more than 60% in volumes alone. And prices have degrown by almost 60% again over the last 2 years. So this has happened because last year there was a major swine flu outbreak in China, and maybe 50% or more of the pig population had to be culled, which is one of the main consumers. Not that we sell in China, but China produces vitamin D3, so the stocks were available everywhere. It impacted the market. Okay. Number 2, then the corona hit. So that is one part of it. You were asking this question also in relation to the benefits to be derived from the backward integration. Backward integration or benefits would derive from two ends. One is the efficiencies we get in the cholesterol production from wool grease that we purchase. I think we are more or less close to the stated objectives. From at least this quarter onwards, we should see that efficiencies being completely met. However, valorization of the side streams, which would add also to the margins, has taken a backseat in this COVID time. So as and when we come to that, valorization effects start coming in, we will achieve the full benefits that we anticipated on this. Number 2, if you are looking at margins alone in terms of EBITDA margins, in this year numbers have almost about 25 crores of other new products that we have launched, including fish oil, which is a major portion. Since it is the launch year, both because of production efficiencies and market entry, our margins were very negligible. If you take that out, the new product contribution at the top line and the EBITDA line, I think our EBITDA margins will be showing much higher, maybe even 27% or something or more. I hope that answers your question.
Right. Yeah. Thank you very much for this, sir. And sir, one more things on pipeline. If we look at the nutraceutical segment, the basket, we have K1, AstraZeneca, and Omega D3, the part of it. So, especially on this front, can you put some color? Means in terms of phase 1, phase 2, might not be the phase 3 applicable now. So, how the progress is going on, especially US, if we look at the 11% of the contribution is coming. So, this is a huge market compared to Europe also, wherein we are getting 34%. So, in future, are we looking at the new client type, especially in US, where the market is quite huge?
Yes, the numbers that we have seen, the growth in human has a decent portion of the expansion in the market share and acquisition of new clients that we have done in US. Our current focus is on increasing our market share in the vitamin D3, of course, on the product basket as well, but more importantly, product basket, we have only a few things left. The concentration is on getting on more clients. As far as contribution from astaxanthin and omega-3 fatty acids is concerned, this is more from a tie-up that we have, current products that we have launched. It is only restricted to the Indian market. K1, the plant is ready. Again, because of COVID and the related issues, both at the R&D and production and staffing and all that, it is slightly delayed. The plant is ready, but hopefully this year we should be able to launch it. Maybe by Q3 or something like that, Q2, Q3, we should be able to launch the product. That product, we will take it everywhere. But it's again a niche product.
Okay. I know, sir.
The big market share, let me just complete with this, sorry.
Yeah, sure.
The big expansion in market share, apart from vitamin D3, I think will come from the premixes and the mineral businesses and etc. will significantly add to our revenues going forward. Those things have to come on stream.
Okay. So, sir, would it be feasible for you, because if we look at the other competitors, especially the Netherlands-based or the China-based, who have the higher market share also. So, can you put in terms of percentage-wise, if we have some data in terms of market share kind of thing?
Yes. Until last year, our human share, vitamin D3 market share in the human nutrition, our analysis was we were maybe 25% or higher on the human side. On the animal side, we were closer to 5 to 6%. Now, on the human side, the last 1.5 years has seen a huge expansion in the market itself. We are still collecting data and analyzing how the market has grown and where we stand today. You see that we have grown ourselves significantly in volumes, also 60%. So we definitely grew along with the market, and plus because of the new client acquisitions also that helped our growth. Over the year, I think about 71% in volumes we grew in the humans crystal cells.
Right. Thank you. And sir, one last question. I know this is not much contributing, but if we look at the property realization also, so is there any fall in terms of tenant or the occupancy at Thane 1 or Worli area? Because if we look at the revenue-wise also, it's falling from 20 crore to almost 17 crores. So can you put some color on tenant or occupancy at Thane 1 or Worli related area? That would be actually, because why I'm asking this question is this revenue segment itself helping us to repay on debt wise also.
Yeah. See, on the revenue side, I think we did not fall so drastically. Earlier, Fermenta itself was paying. So on a standalone basis, you would see revenue from Fermenta also being shown in DIL books as well, DIL. Once the consolidation happened, there is no rent coming from the subsidiary, so that is one negation. But yes, I think we had about 5 to 7% degrowth in the rental business, either because some small client has left or because we have renegotiated. Some clients have renegotiated and we have given them extensions in terms of not increasing and things like that. So a combination of them. But we are really not worried. We are very, very well placed to take care of those expenses through the rentals, real estate expenses through the rentals, including about 75 crores of loans in our books that is standing is towards real estate. It is completely being serviced by the rentals alone. So we are very comfortably placed. And as you are all aware that we are in the market to see how we can monetize this. Unfortunately, the COVID has not helped. especially on the office spaces. So we will come back to you as and when we see some visibility there.
Thank you, and sorry to interrupt you, Sudhir. I'll request you to come back in the question queue for a follow-up question. A request to all the participants, please restrict to 2 questions per participant. If time permits, please come back in the question queue for a follow-up question. The next question is from the line of Mr. Ketan Shah from Grow Capitals. Please go ahead.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Hi, Ketan.
Hi. Sir, I have few questions. Sir, can you give us an update on the vitamin D3 prices globally? Are they going up now or have they stabilized? And on the capex front, how much will be the capex going forward?
Capex, I think we have already answered. On the D3 prices, it depends. We have a healthy mix of long-term contracts as well as spot. Long-term, I mean more than a year or so. And spot and short-term is more towards yearly contracts and quarterly contracts or spot business. So it's a combination of both. We do see a decent growth in the pricing on the...
Sir, my question was, are we seeing an improvement in pricing now in vitamin D3 on the animal side? Because we have seen the worst.
Animal side is still, the market is still suppressed, Ketan. There is not much improvement yet. We are waiting for the COVID situation to get better and things to start rolling back to square one. Hopefully it will happen soon.
Sir, the reason I'm asking is because we have seen across the board price increases of food grains and all. So with that context, I was asking whether do you see that, let's say, 6 months from now or a year from now, the prices, we can be surprised by the price increase we can get in the animal side?
See, we publish along with in our investor presentation, we have a slide giving the animal feed prices. There is no reason why it should not again start coming back into action, and you will see that volatility because it's been commoditized and mainly dominated by Chinese. So we will see prices, price fluctuations. We will see good prices. We will see bad prices. As long as we are able to play both the cycles and take advantage, especially when the prices are up, we will always make money. There is no reason why it should not happen again.
Okay. And sir, final question. Can you tell us how much is the capacity utilization now of our plants?
On the animal side, you will understand that the market is very suppressed, so I will not be able to tell you that we are utilizing full utilization. But our human side, we are almost complete maximum utilization of the capacities. We are also eager to kickstart the expansion project to come in line very soon. So we are utilizing, on the human side, it's almost 100% utilization used.
And is it fair for me to assume that on animal side we will be at, let's say, 40-50% or even less?
Not lesser, about 40-50%, I would say.
Okay.
Because the animal side degrowth has helped us divert the intermediate, because up to a certain stage both are same, and from there they are diverted, not from the early stage. So we have been able to utilize that stage capacities significantly towards the human side.
Okay. Sir, thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ms. Alisha from Envision Capital. Please go ahead.
Hi, good morning, sir, and thank you for taking my question.
Alisha, sorry to interrupt you. May I request you to speak a little louder, please?
Sure. I hope I'm audible now.
Yes, Alisha, please go ahead.
Yes. Thank you for taking my question, sir. Just wanted some understanding. So, when you give the split of human to animal, it is the animal business which is about 66% of your revenue. Is that correct?
No.
I think Sumesh should answer this, please.
Yeah. So human is 66% and animal is 34%.
Okay. And how do you see this mix going forward, considering that we're still witnessing strong degrowth in the animal business? So do we expect this mix to keep tilting in the favor of human?
I will take this.
Yeah.
Alicia, this animal side, I think we have seen the worst of the days in the recent past. So I doubt and completely hope not that it goes down still further from here. I don't know how much more it can bottom out, both at volume level and price level. There is not much room. So we would not see that. The human side continues to grow. Maybe it might not have the same growth rate once COVID is over, but the growth will be here to stay, and maybe it will taper down in terms of the growth rate. Mix will always again depend on quarter to quarter or year to year, depending on how the animal feed prices have behaved for that particular year. Otherwise, you would always see a consistency on the human side. The percentage revenue mix will always fluctuate depending on how the prices of animal feed, which unfortunately is not in our control.
Okay, sure. And so while you spoke about capacity expansion, can you please re-highlight in which segment is the capacity coming in 22 and what is the plan for 23? Which segments are you looking at expanding capacity?
I will ask Mr. Prashant Nagi to take this question. Prashant.
Yeah, thank you, Satish. So, Alicia, the capacity that is going to kind of come up is in the vitamin D3 that is currently so the plant 4 will start. That is the additional 20 to 25% capacity that would come in with the capex which was invested last year. And going forward in the next 2-3 years, the focus is going to be building a great company on nutritional ingredients and value-added formats of nutrition, which means that Satish, when he was explaining the capex related investments in the next few years, which is 150 to 200 crores, will go preliminary in building quality ingredients in minerals, and as well as the vitamin K1, which is part of the last one, will also kick in and come in this thing, as well as the premix plant, which will be a mixture, which is a premixing of various minerals and vitamins. So that's where the next 2 years will be. Over to you.
And just one last question, pardon my ignorance for this. The vitamin D3 capacity that you said is coming in plant 4, the 25% additional capacity, is this animal or human, or is it fungible depending on where the demand is more, you can use the capacity accordingly?
This capacity, which is the 25%, again, it's a very unique business where some of the intermediate, up to an intermediate step, everything is common for both the businesses. And a portion of it is also going to be specifically for the human nutrition. So we have created capacity which will actually benefit both the human nutrition as well as up to a certain stage. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Mr. Sharik from Duro Capital. Please go ahead. Sharik, may I request you to unmute your line from your side and go with your question?
Hi, apologies for that. Hi, team. Just a couple of questions. One on Molnupiravir. Any update on that front? You all had made some potential breakthroughs, but it will be good to just hear your thoughts if any of that could translate to business.
At this stage, all we can say is that yes, we have made some breakthrough in technology in terms of using our Calbi-lipase enzyme, our in-house enzyme, Calbi-lipase enzyme, to manufacture the molecule Molnupiravir. As you are all aware that it is a patented molecule and licensed to a few companies in India. The company is doing all its efforts to see how we can participate in that. I think at this stage, there is nothing more to inform Sharik, but as we have more clarity and the opportunity crystallizes or something like that, but the company is doing all efforts, we'll come back to you.
Fair enough. I would imagine that since everyone whose license is already manufacturing it, they're using the chemical route instead of the enzymatic route to manufacture.
Imagination, Sharik, you'll understand that we are currently in making all efforts, so it is not right to get into a discussion at this stage for us. As and when there is more clarity and our participation possibilities and all that, we'll get back to you.
Sure. And just one more question on the overall business from more from a 3-4 year perspective. Given that there are several things you all are doing in terms of forward integrating, backward integrating newer products. If I was to ask you how this business will look, say in 2025, how would you think about the business mix? And also if you could comment on what you would aspire to have a margin profile like at that point in time.
See, our desire is to be a major nutritional ingredient player. Definitely, we want to be one among the top in India and play a good role in the global market as well. In the next 5 years, we hope that as our vitamin D3 business grows, the other products also, other nutritional ingredient basket also grows, to at least contribute the new business to contribute at least 30-40% of our revenues, of our increased revenues over the next 4-5 years. Margins, because these are all new products, will be entering the market afresh. There might be dips and ups in between, but overall we expect to be able to maintain a 25% EBITDA margin.
Fair enough. And if you could also nuance that a little bit in terms of what kind of scale you all are looking at in terms of overall size and
what kind of? Sorry, I lost you there. What kind of?
Scale you all are thinking about in terms of what could be potential revenues of the company. As in, what we can allude to today is coming to numbers through the capex you're putting up. But when we take a slightly longer term view, it'll be very helpful to understand it more from a medium term vision perspective rather than the long term goals that you want to achieve.
See, the objective will be to grow both at the top line and the margin levels. Focus will be, of course, more on margins. However, having said that, our first target will be the 4-digit number. Whether we will hit it in 4 years or 5 years or 6 years, I think it will depend on how efficiently we implement all our plans. But that is the first objective, Sharik.
All right. Great. That's very helpful. Thank you so much. Good luck.
Thank you, Sharik.
Thank you. I request all the participants, please restrict to 2 questions per participant. The next question is from the line of Shanti Patel from Shanti Patel Investments. Please go ahead.
Good morning. My question is, what is our market share of vitamin D in India? And number 2, what is the return on capital and return on equity as on today? And are you going to maintain the same after all these projects are implemented? Hello?
Hello. Hello. Can you hear me, Mr. Patel?
Yeah, I'm hearing. You got my question?
Yes, Mr. Patel, I got your question.
Sure.
I think the exact numbers I will later on ask Mr. Sumesh to give you on the current situation. But having said that, the capex return on investment, return on equity.
Return on equity and return on capital employed.
Capital employed as we move along. I think always when a new plant is put up, the initial years will be a little tough, but otherwise, once it is completely operational and we get our market share, we are very confident that we should maybe not even have this kind of percentages. It should be higher.
And what is our market share of vitamin D in India and who are our competitors? Yeah,
in India, we are not aware of any other company marketing its product in India so far. So more or less the entire market share, subject to a few imports coming in here and there, should be with Solventa. I would close to the entire market share, I would say. You can say 99% and above for that matter.
Okay, so there is no competitor, right?
Not right. Not an Indian manufacturer yet.
Correct. Thank you very
much. You can give the ROC numbers of the current year or return on capital.
Yeah, if you give that is better.
Yeah. So on a consolidated basis, we had an ROC and ROE of 12 to 13% in FY21.
Sir, vitamin D, we are dominating the market. In spite of that, why so less?
So that is basically because of the capex and everything. So two reasons for it. One is the capex which we had put in across around about 120 crores, which we have put in over a period of 1 year. The benefit of it, I think, so we should be able to see it going forward from here. The second part of it is also, as I said, this is on a consolidated basis. So it also includes the revenue and the losses which was there in my one-time losses which we talked about earlier in my subsidiary in USA. So going forward, both of it will not be there and it should show a healthy kind of a return.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Mr. Neeraj Shah from Exemplar Investments. Please go ahead.
Yep. Thanks for giving me the opportunity again. What is the progress on launch of 25-hydroxy VD3?
Hello, Mr. Shah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah. Unfortunately, these projects are delayed again because of allocation of human resources both at our R&D and plants for the existing business versus doing the new projects. So they have taken a backstage. Hopefully, once things improve over this year or early next year, we should be able to get those products going. They have taken a backseat.
So at least it will be a year, because I think as per presentation, we were going to launch in, I think, Q1 FY22, right?
Yes, that was the intention, but they have taken a backstage, sir. We don't see visibility of being able to put them, our plans into action in the next quarter or two also. It is looking difficult with the current things in hand.
But we are in the loop for that. We have not dropped the project, right?
No, not at all, sir. Not at all. It's just taking time, but otherwise, we have applied for patents. We have unique technologies. We are confident of our efficiencies and costs that will come out of there to be able to compete in this market. We are extremely confident on the business as well. It is just taking time.
Okay, got it. And in balance sheet, in current provisions, at consolidated level, I see a shoot up from 50 lakh to 7.70 crores. So what are they for?
Maybe Sumesh can explain this, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sumesh?
Yeah, 1 minute. The question is basically that on a balance sheet, we are seeing that on the provisions, we are...
Current provisions have shot up from 50 lakh to 7.70 crores. So what are they provided for?
I really need to check and come back to you on this. I'm really sorry. Maybe Neeraj, once this is through, I'll come back to you on this.
No, means, there is no bad debt or something provision?
Not at all. There is no bad debts or anything provisions of that sorts which are there over there.
Oh, okay, got it.
These are all business provisions, and none of it is from a bad debt perspective.
Okay. And regarding the margin profile of our human and animal VD3, I wanted to ask, because this year we have seen a great shoot up in volumes for human VD3, and also the prices are almost stable, around 4% even we have seen increase. So, but if I see the margins, they have not benefited much on margin front. Whereas in animal VD3, if such shoot up in volume or prices are there, then the margins get shoot up to 30-40%. we have seen.
As I explained earlier, Mr. Shah, the margins, if you take out the new products, almost 25 crores or odd, that had negligible margins in the first year of introduction. If you take that out, I think our margins have expanded as per the volumes and the price increases in the human side. And of course, they have shrunk a little bit because of the animal side and the new products, but it has more than taken care of. We have had a 35% increase in EBITDA as against last year in absolute numbers.
Yeah. And
despite the new products not adding any margins to that, adding to the revenue but not adding to the margins. So if you knock that off, you will understand that the margins are commensurate to the increase in the human side sales.
Sorry to interrupt you. So I'll request you to come back in the question queue. Ladies and gentlemen, due to time constraint, that will be the last question for today. I will now hand the conference over to the management for closing comments.
Thank you, Nikhil.
So sorry to interrupt you. We have a few questions in the queue.
Okay.
The next question is from the line of Mr. J.M. Biani, an individual investor. Please go ahead. J.M. Biani, may I request to unmute your line from your side and go with your question.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Mr. Biani.
Yeah. So my question is around what is the strength of the R&D lab? I believe the R&D center is just in Thane. And what kind of projects were delivered during this year? And what is the pipeline of, what is the basic focus of the R&D organization?
I will ask Mr. Prashant Nagde to take this question. Prashant?
Yeah, thank you, Satish. So the R&D is, you are right, it is situated in Wadley Estate, outskirts of Mumbai, Thane. We have about 15,000 square feet of place, which also got further expanded. Internally, there was some space which was expanded. And the R&D mainly works on three kind of segments. One is the API business, which supports vitamin D3 part as well. The second is the biotechnology, where the enzymatic catalysis is taken place. And we have also invested in the formulation development, where value addition formats of vitamin D3 related work happens. So there are three different segments within the R&D. The R&D has worked on various efficiency improvement programs, which we continuously invest in improving on ongoing basis. Also supports the backward integration project, which was implemented last year in terms of the tech transfer and getting it completely done on the budgeted assumptions as far as the efficiencies and the volumes were concerned. We also worked on the other project that was mentioned, which is Molnupiravir. It is a drug which is using our own Calbi. So there were improvements and investments done on the R&D in terms of the enzyme itself, as well as the chemical synthesis of Molnupiravir by biocatalysis, biotransformatic way. And also on the formulation side, that is the value addition formats, we have worked on many projects. I can't give you individual names because of confidentiality, but these are stable value-added formats of vitamin D3 and few other formats of vitamins. And as well as the premix business that we want to set up. So that business has got support from the R&D steps.
I get it. So it is a mix of product engineering and some value additions and improvements. My last question is around there is a segment called environmental solutions. So is there any traction from a commercial standpoint in that segment, or it is still under investments? And is there any vision for that particular segment and organization?
Prashant, I think you should answer this as well.
Yeah, thank you, Satish. So environmental business is a kind of new kind of business, but we have been around there. And one of the main reasons for being around in this business is most of the degradation of wastewater is by biology and through enzyme and microorganism based kind of intervention. And we, having been a biotech company for the last 30 years odd, and understanding that, and also a pharma company which understands engineering pretty well and having wastewater treatment. We combined those expertise and started kind of supporting this business. So we are tied up with couple of foreign technologies where we see traction now. This is in the small independent units which will be decentralized wastewater treatment, and we are seeing good traction there. And also in the second part of the business, which is institutional business, which would be large builders and housing complexes, which need now advanced technologies in degrading in the smaller spaces within the apartments, because most of the municipal corporations now have compulsory wastewater treatment within on a decentralized basis again. So we see a good amount of traction. It is still a very, very tiny portion of the overall business, but we are committed because we combine our expertise, and we are seeing that a company which makes a difference in terms of the unique proposition on biology and engineering has a unique place to make waves in this particular thing. So we are committed on this business, but it is very tiny.
Okay, thanks. The point was missing. What is the strength of the R&D organization?
Yeah, I'm sorry. So the strength of R&D, including all the people in all the three different segments, is around more than 30 to 35 people.
30 to 30. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Mr. Deepak Mehta, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, sir. So my question is around the capex. So what kind of asset turnover we can expect from the ongoing capex, sir?
Sir, your question was not clear. You are not completely clearly audible. Can you please repeat your question?
Yes, sir. My question is for the current ongoing capex, what kind of asset turnover means revenue we can expect from this capex, sir?
Sumesh, can you please answer this question in terms of asset turnover? If let's say 20% capacity increase happens on vitamin D3?
Yeah. So with the 20% increase in the vitamin D3, it's very difficult, Deepak, to directly say as to how it will be capitalized and put into place. So if it is for a human or from a vitamin. But if it was from a human perspective, if I was to take into consideration, then there should be a turnover over a period of time, would not be immediately, but should be close to 4 to 5 times.
4 to 5 times, sir. And in the long term?
In the long term, not immediately.
Yes, sir. So you have given roughly guidance of around 25% of profit margin. So in the long term, what kind of ROC we can expect, which is right now 12%, I think? Can we see it around 18-20% in 3 to 5 years?
Yes, Mr. Deepak, that's what the target is, to be close to 18 to 19%.
Okay. And my last question is around, so going forward, what will be the focus areas? Will be human or animal? Because in animal also, there is lots of payments up there.
I think Prashant will take this question, please.
Yes, Satish, thank you so much. So Deepak ji, the company has a very balanced focus, because we have said earlier in this call that there is an intermediate level up to which there is no difference in manufacturing the human part as well as the animal part, and then you can decide, depending on the order book, where you produce and how you produce both the formats. Our focus is going to be a balance between both the formats. The vitamin D3 story is not yet over. I think COVID has completely changed the way vitamin D3 is consumed per se. Even before COVID, vitamin D3 was among the top research vitamins in the world, with more than 3,000 medical literatures being published on vitamin D3. So we continue to expect a very healthy growth even during the pandemic, which is currently on. And we feel that a sizable portion of the change in the attitude and the demand will stay on the human front, even post-pandemic. Now, trying to combine all the dots so far, the capacity enhancements which have happened through debottlenecking last year and also the additional capital which has gone in, and the capital which will be employed in the future couple of years in capital in the new plant in Saika for vitamin D3, we feel that we will continuously support the growth which will come as a paradigm shift because of the attitude changing on immunity related products post-COVID. We assume and we hope also that the growth on vitamin D3 will definitely go down on human front. However, the base which has changed will stay and a moderate growth will happen. So the human nutrition will be an important play. We think that the story is still not over. We will be able to capitalize on that through the investments that we have done to be able to cater to that. On the animal front, as you have also understood that these investments are also up to a state where we can do the intermediates. We will focus. We have also set up a manufacturing on third-party basis through our German subsidiary in Germany, which is closer to the market of Europe and USA. And we have a very significant portion of our efforts in market expansion and capacity expansion. We feel that once the world learns to live with COVID, the animal nutrition will, because people will need protein, and animal nutrition will come back to normal digits and numbers, and the price cycle is something beyond our control. It will continue to play that price cycle. The company has played that price cycle pretty well in the past, and we will continue to also focus and invest on animal front. So there is not going to be one single segment as a focus. Both are equally important to the organization. And from a infrastructure perspective and capability perspective and effort, we will invest equally on both. And we feel that we are very confident to exploit whenever there is any upside event on either of those markets, the company is positioned to benefit from that. I hope I have answered your question.
Just to add, Mr. Mehta, to what Prashant has said, I think that is on the vitamin D3, but on most other capex plans that we have other than on vitamin D3 are significantly focused on human nutrition. Whether it is new products or premixes or what you may say, all of them are significantly focused, primarily focused on the human nutrition. If there is a animal nutrition play because of being present in the human nutrition, of course we will take that opportunity also and do that as well. But otherwise, most of the capex other than for vitamin D3 is going into the human nutrition.
Thank you. I'll request you to come back in the question queue for a follow-up questions. Participant are requested to ask 2 questions per participant. If time permit, please come back in the question queue for a follow-up question. The next participant is Nitin, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon. Thanks a lot for giving me this opportunity. I have 2 questions. The first one is it's regarding the micronutrient inflows for fortified food market. I just wanted to know by when could we see those inflows coming into our top line? Is it going to be next within 2 years or 3 years? Like fortification of rice is something which I wanted to know. And the second one is how is our biotechnology business segment is going to look like 5 years from now? Thank you.
Prashant, I think you should take this question, please.
Certainly. Thank you so much, Satish. Nitin, thank you for asking this question. It is an important part of our business and the future growth. Fortification, as you know that micronutrient deficiency is a major problem, even though we are now 70 years old republic. The major portion of it can be corrected by fortification of staples. The current administration at the center is committed towards this, and Fermenta going forward wants to play a very important role in making quality products, because we are a 60 years old pharmaceutical company, and entry into the food fortification and the food segment will bring in that quality angle into the products that we will bring out. So we are focused on fortification. The first fortification product for the staples is the AD2, which is a product which is for milk and oil fortification. We started with the oil fortification. This project has been already launched, and milk will happen subsequently. The government of India has already circulated guidance through FSSAI to see that this can be mandated. If it is mandated, that is an opportunity which the company will be able to exploit. That is the first thing. We have the products and we are at any point in time ready to exploit that entire opportunity. The second is the fortified rice. The company is interested in this particular project, and fortified rice kind of revenues, I think yes, next financial year would see the company kind of doing a significant kind of interest into this particular thing. I cannot disclose anything beyond this, but we are actively engaged in the oil, milk, and fortified rice kernel in terms of fortification. We will also contribute through the premixing plant to the other players who are going to be responsible for fortification through the premixing business that we will have. And we are also setting up the mineral plant, which will again in turn contribute to the other premix players and other players who are going to be in fortification. So I think we have got a very wide position taken and a very extensive and exhaustive position taken in this entire nutrition ingredient, which will be also playing a role in fortification. That was the first part. Second is biotechnology. Biotechnology, as we see, the place where we are present is called as green technology. And it has got the green technology, fortunately, is also something which is going to be very economical and cost competitive. I think from both pressure points, that is from a green pollution perspective within our country, we see a change in the attitudes of large pharma companies, and also from a perspective of cost competitiveness, which is driven from the market angle, which is a compulsion. We see that there is a good traction coming in. And we see that major molecules which are being supplied and manufactured in India are, if there is a possibility of green chemistry and a biocatalysis, there is traction. So we will be very much committed. This is a unique strength Fermenta has over the last 30 years, starting with our journey from setting up a Fermenta Biotech as a part of DIL, then DuPont, then. We have invested in biocatalysis capabilities. The laboratory in Mumbai has got further investments in capabilities where we will be able to exploit this to the fullest extent. And all our enzymes are having freedom to operate, so we do not infringe IPs of people. And over the last 1 year, we have had not less than 10 patents which have been filed coming only from biotechnology. So you will see a very interesting continuous effort to exploit this opportunity further. And we want to be a leading player within India, offering solutions whenever people want, either from a green chemistry perspective that is less pollution, or from a cost competitiveness perspective, we will have solutions made available from Fermenta. We are re-engineering the entire position of how we deal with the Indian pharma business.
That's so great to know. I just wanted to ask one more thing. It's like there are few companies who are trying to create protein out of methane. Few biotechnology companies right now which they're trying to do. Are there any patents in which comes under green technology but in turn creates protein from industrial waste? Are we looking into investments or patents into that as well?
So Nitin, yeah, I'm aware of the proteins, vegetable proteins as you call it. We are not in that segment. We are in a very, very specific segment called as biocatalysis. So if you have a chemical reaction happening between two products and you get a Y product out of that, a pure chemistry is sometimes not specific and not efficient. And it is, of course, not sometimes also pollution, it is polluting driven. So we exactly work on that through enzymes. So our proteins are enzymes and they're not edible. They are biocatalysis. They are industrial enzymes. So we are in that segment and not something which is for consumption. So we don't even have plans currently to get into that. We have proteins which are very specific biocatalytic proteins, playing a role in a chemical synthesis in a biocatalytic. I hope I have answered your question.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for your time and all the best.
Thank you. Next question is from the line of Mr. Vipin Taneja, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Sir, my question is to Mr. Satish. Just wanted to ask, what will be the interest outgo in this financial year, since you have mentioned about the capex and the capitalization?
I think I will ask Mr. Sumesh Gandhi, our CFO, to take this question to be more specific. Thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you, Satish. So total capex, if you're talking only from a capex perspective, the capex which we will be incurring, including the backward integration and everything which I've talked about, is close to a long-term capex of 133 crores. And the average interest rate at which it is there is around about 7%. So on the long-term debt, it will be close to 9 crore rupees on an annual basis.
So total interest outgo this financial year altogether, everything?
In FY21 we are talking, or FY22?
FY22.
FY22. FY22, everything put together would be close to 14 crores.
14 crores?
Yeah.
Okay, so there will be some repayments as well?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So my thing was, are we targeting to put this interest outgo between this 15 crores to 20 crores bracket, or maybe are we looking to put it down further? Maybe 10 crores?
See, as we go forward, I think it should come down. But as I earlier mentioned, Mr. Taneja, the 100 crores that has gone in, about 120 crores that has gone in, it has gone in this year. I mean, FY21, we are putting about 121 crores. And maybe another, as I earlier mentioned, 50-60 crores will go in FY22. Once they start, the utilization of these plants starts, we will start seeing it going down. Of course, if our real estate something happens, then you will see a different story. But if I keep that aside, I think maybe from next year onwards, you'll start seeing it going down. The intention is to keep the debt levels low. If you would notice in our books, you would see we also sit on fixed deposits of 25 crores or to 30 crores of fixed deposits, which we have with us, which we have not utilized to repay any of the loans, keeping in mind our capex requirements itself.
Right. Okay. And
so we continue to generate cash. Yeah. Sorry, Mr. Manager, go ahead.
Yeah. So you did mention about, touching the 4-figure marks whenever it happens. But any medium-term plan to at least double the turnover from the present one, like so to 750 crores?
I wish we can double every time, sir. This has happened once or twice, but I don't think so. It can be a continuous process. It will take time, sir. So as I said earlier, right now we are at just about 400 levels, or just below 400 levels. To reach a 4-digit number in the next 4 to 5 years, I think we should have significant jump in one of those years. Otherwise, it will be tough to reach that number. Yes, once all these investments come into motion and some of the plans get into action, I think we will see a significant jump. But which year is difficult to mention, sir.
Great. Thank you so much. That answered my queries. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Taneja.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ms. Nikita Agarwal from ValueQuest Investment Advisors. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Thank you for taking my question. I just had one question. I wanted to get more clarity on what is Fermental's role in the Molnupiravir as a drug. Are we supplying to the Merck's licensed players? Is there an agreement? And some clarity on that.
No. Currently, as I said, the company is still making all its efforts to see how it can participate in the business. We do not manufacture anything currently. We are not participating in that currently. We are in our effort stage. If and when it fructifies, we are hopeful of that. We will come back to you and definitely inform everyone.
Sure, sir. So, are we currently supplying for the trials or anything? Or you can.
I don't think so. We will be in a position to talk more than that. We're still doing our efforts.
Sure, sir. No problem. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Mr. Deepak Mehta, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you for the follow-up opportunity. And it was very detailed answer to my last question. My question is around what is the investment we are doing in R&D and specifically for capability development in terms of human talent, sir?
There are two questions. One is on the R&D. R&D, our intention is to be able to invest about 15 to 20 crores per year. Should be our investment in the R&D. I don't know the exact number this year because of COVID. We might have been a little short of that number, but that is our intention. As Mr. Prashant Nagre had earlier mentioned, we have expanded our facility to utilize the entire 15,000-20,000 square feet of space that is available, increase the strength, and increase the kind of research we can do both at the API level, at a B2B formulation level, and as well as the biotech level. That is on the R&D. On the human side, I don't have an exact number, but there are various programs that are undertaken by the HR department. This COVID time has been difficult, so most of them have been online. We could not do much of the physical programs that we normally end up doing in terms of employee resource increase in terms of their productivity and all those things. That has not happened much. I think this year has been more focused on taking care of employees and their families who got affected by COVID because they had to compulsorily come to the plants. We had to continue production, cater to the increased demand. So there's been a lot of work that happened on the COVID front this year. We participate since the last 3 years. We participate in a survey that is done by Great Places to Work. We are happy to say that over the last 3 years we have been certified by them, and every year with increased scoring. So that should also speak volumes in terms of the efforts that are taken by the company in maintaining the human talent.
Okay, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the last question for today. I will now hand the conference over to the management for closing comments.
Thank you so much, Nikhil. Thank you all for participating in this earnings call. I hope we have been able to answer your questions satisfactorily. If you have any further questions or would like to know more about the company, please reach out to our investor relations managers at Valorem Advisors. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. On behalf of BP Equities, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us. You may now disconnect your lines. Thank you.